Well, hi friends, James Lewis here with Jenny Murray from our Chapel Lane congregation. Jenny, you're married to the wonderful Pete.
I am.
And you guys have been on something of a difficult journey over the last little while. And can you tell us a bit about what that's involved?
Yeah, sure. We first wanted to have children when we were in our early 20s. But I didn't have a full-time job, and so I knew I couldn't get maternity leave. And then 4 temporary 1-year contracts later, I finally had a full-time job. And then Pete had a melanoma, and that meant that we couldn't have kids for at least a few years after that. And so then finally all of that got sorted, and then we have discovered in the last 12 months that we cannot have our own children.
So there's been quite a process arriving to that, and a lot of medical appointments.
Yes.
And I imagine that's been very draining and difficult.
Yeah, it has. We booked in for a whole bunch of obviously appointments and tests and all of that. I think we thought that it would not happen to us. We kind of went, we'll get the appointments done and I'm sure they won't find anything. And then they found something. And so in some ways it was good to have an answer, but it was also quite a brutal blow of the realization that there was something that would stop us from having our own children.
Yeah, and I know for you guys, alongside the kind of medical journey, there's been a bit of a spiritual journey in your faith, and that's something that, as I've chatted with you, just been so encouraged with how you've wrestled with that. I know there's been really kind of some real valleys in that, but so how has that spiritual element kind of sat alongside all the medical appointments and tests and so on?
I can safely say that God has never grown me so much in my entire life. I've never felt this stretch before. I remember when Pete had cancer and he was really sick for a while. I was like, I just can't handle this. And Pete goes, God never gives us any more than we can handle. And I was like, oh yeah, thanks Pete. Thanks for the little sound bite. But he was actually trying to be really encouraging. Yeah. But I was probably not in the mood to hear it. But I thought, okay, that's done.
We've had our
problem.
Yeah, our suffering.
We've had our little mountain that we've climbed, and God's got us over the top. Yeah. And now it's going to be smooth sailing. Yeah. And so then I think the only word I can think of, if I'm being brutally honest, is just totally betrayed. I was just like, God, what have you done to me? And why are you doing this? There was just real confusion and a real sense of loss, not just because of a future that we had planned with kids in it, but a sense of loss, I think, in that, I don't know, I think I felt lost and that God wasn't guiding me anymore. It was a very strange feeling. And I think for me, that was probably my lowest point, because I really was just like, I could see a future suddenly that I'd never imagined where maybe I wasn't going to believe in God anymore, and that terrified me.
And so you sit here still with the really sad news about not being able to have children and all the grief that brings. Yeah. But not in that same spiritual place. So what's changed?
I don't know. God doesn't change. So I think God has changed me. I think the thing that's changed is my understanding of what it means to suffer, and my understanding that God allows suffering for you to grow closer to him. And I think also knowing that God has a plan and a purpose, and remembering that I can't see it has been really helpful, because I think a lot of what I was experiencing came down to the fact that I had no control over what I wanted in my life. And for me, that was genuinely scary, because I am someone who likes to have control, and I feel very anxious when I don't. And he was something that I could not change. It didn't matter what I did, nothing would change. Yeah, in the last few months, it's been a slow process, but it's finally got to a point where, after a lot of prayer and a lot of reflection on it and a lot of talking about it with other people, and I can say very, very confidently that God has just been teaching me to rely on him.
So it's Mother's Day.
Yep.
And we're kind of sharing this story.
Yep.
And often in churches, the Mother's Day is kids are everywhere, and it's a big celebration of mothers and women. Do you have any insights on what we as a church can do better to help people in your situation who aren't going to fit the mold, maybe single parents or people who can't have children or whatever it is, things that churches can do that are helpful and could do differently?
I think probably the best thing people can do is listen when you want to talk about it.
So listen and don't try and solve it.
Yes,
or give
that was
the answer.
that was my next one, is then don't try and solve it because you can't.
Yeah.
And that's okay,
Yeah.
because if that was God's plan to solve it, he would have. There is clearly another plan here. There's another purpose for which God is using me. I don't know what that is yet, but I am very much with renewed confidence, I think, that this is for some purpose. And so, yeah, don't feel that you have to fix it, because
Just be there.
just be there.
Yeah,
Because
listen
obviously
and walk. Yeah.
God's put us in this place for a reason. Maybe that purpose is that we can listen to people who have similar stories.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I mean, this has been amazing that you shared it, and I know hard, and yet you reached out to us and said, I really want to, like, if there's a chance, I want to share my story.
Yeah.
So why would you want to do that?
Yeah, I just feel like God put this on my heart and was like, you need to talk about it as a Christian who is not going to fit that mold and who's going to be dealing with issues that can get pretty complex in nature. You know, like, say if we adopt or we decide we want to have an embryo donation, like, that's going to raise a whole bunch of issues that as a Christian, people who aren't Christian might not have such I guess complexities around as, say, we would as Christians. So I thought, well, if I can share my story, maybe people who are going through similar things might feel that they can use us as a sounding board, or maybe they can just feel that
It's okay to talk about how it's really hard.
Yeah, be messy. It's like life is messy, and that's okay.
Well, Jenny, thank you for doing that. I'm really thankful that God's put that on your heart and you've had the courage to do that. You guys are so special at Norwest for a whole bunch of reasons, but largely because of just how open you have been and how you've invited people in to walk with you. So thank you for sharing your story. Pray it's a blessing to others, and as you say, it helps others kind of open up as well. So
Thank you.
thank you.